all the time nowadays? It might just be something in the air. We'll have more on that later on in the show. Stay tuned.
Good evening and thank you for tuning in to NewsWatch Ole Miss. I'm Annie Matt.
And I'm Grace McClanahan.
Recruiting has been a main priority for men's basketball coach Kermit Davis, but now he's back in Oxford.
But he was able to sit down with our sports reporter Colin Rivera and talks about his first few weeks as head coach.
Coming from Middle Tennessee was bittersweet, but head coach Kermit Davis couldn't be more excited to come back to his home state of Mississippi and establish a new culture for the Ole Miss men's basketball team.
The expectation I have is become a really good practice team, is the day-to-day process, and that's what we've got instilled in our team, is that and now in the off season you can't go every day. You only get 2 hours of work on the floor. So, but trying to establish a culture.
But not just a winning culture on the court, but off the court too.
So we've got to get culture back in the locker room, winning culture, how to go about day-to-day process of academics, off the floor, in the community, that whole thing. And then you got to repeat the process week after week after week. So that's what's ahead of us. We've got some good pieces there. And if we can do that, add some other pieces, then we'll see how competitive we'll be in the SEC next year.
He's not only focused on the players, but the fans as well.
What we try to bring here is we want to play really fast and smart in the break. You'll see a relentless team. If you just ask any coach in college basketball, they'll say Middle Tennessee toughness, rebounding, together. Just a team that you got to play for 40 minutes to beat. Teams hope we can play with great body language that are connected on both ends. And the biggest thing, I just want a team that when the fans and students come watch, you're not going to win every game, but they enjoyed watching that team play. They enjoyed watching them compete. They thought that team was together, and that's the product we want to put on the floor.
Despite being gone for the first few weeks due to recruiting, Ole Miss basketball head coach Kermit Davis is still focused on bringing a more ambitious culture to the Ole Miss program moving forward. Reporting from the Toohey Center, Colin Rivera, NewsWatch, Ole Miss.
The Diamond Rebels will take on a top 5 SEC opponent tonight. Sports Watch reporter Jason Price is in studio to give us a look at why this series has a heated past. Jason?
Thanks, Annie. Tonight, the number 4 Rebels will take on the 5th-ranked Arkansas Razorbacks in a key SEC West matchup. Now, these two programs have always had a history when it comes to baseball. An example of this history has been trending in Oxford recently. It's a video from an Ole Miss versus Arkansas game back in 2011, and it includes Razorback catcher Brian Walker showing he's not only a baseball player, but an amazing actor as well.
Walker says that pitch hit him. Well, I'm going to tell you what, if it didn't, he is putting on a great acting job. That's all I can say on that. And he goes down swinging, and he's about to get tossed, and he is tossed. And now he throws his helmet.
It's going to be a heated series this weekend as the Rebels currently have the most wins in the nation, and Arkansas has the second most home runs with 47. First pitch tonight is at 6:30. Grace, back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Jason. This is the end of Mental Health Week, sponsored by Active Minds Ole Miss. The organization shines light on suicide prevention and other mental health problems. Kenzie McLaughlin found out that while Active Minds started small, its profile is growing because of the efforts of a few students.
Catherine Forbes is the founder and president of Active Minds at Ole Miss. Forbes brought Active Minds to the university in order to raise awareness for mental health and suicide prevention. Forbes recounts why she felt the need to bring an Active Minds chapter to campus.
I felt the need to bring this to this campus because I was suffering through my own battles with anxiety and depression, and so was my vice president and co-founder, Tyler Rice. And so we had just, we were neighbors sophomore year, and we thought this was a really cool organization, and we registered it.
Mental Health Week concludes today and has informed students on the numbers of people affected each year by suicide and other mental health issues. According to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, suicide is one of the leading causes of death in the United States. Almost 45,000 Americans die each year from suicide, and over 1,000 are college students.
And since silence packing is something that Active Minds nationally brings to campuses, and we were their third stop on their spring tour, and they bring over 1,000 backpacks, and a lot of them have personal stories, and each backpack represents one of the college students that our country loses to suicide every year.
Forbes is graduating in May and sees the Active Minds chapter and student involvement growing in the future.
I think it's only going to grow bigger and bigger, and I'm sad that I won't be here to see that, but it's hard to know just how many people we've positively impacted, and I would love to know, but just watching everything happen this week has been incredible.
Mental Health Week shined a light on the importance of this condition and brought awareness to the university. Kinsey McLaughlin, NewsWatch Ole Miss.
Today is Transgender Day of Visibility, and the UM Pride Network will celebrate with a candlelight vigil in the Circle at 7:30 p.m. UM Pride Network has partnered with the organization Queer People of Color to bring the event to campus. The event hopes to increase awareness and equality by gaining the support of those outside of the transgender community, while noting that the transgender community is not the only community to go through this fight for equality and acceptance.
FedEx will commemorate the 50th anniversary of Martin Luther King's assassination on April 4th. In observance, they will grant free admission to the Museum of Mississippi History and the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum. Both museums will hold events to honor Dr. King throughout the day and will also extend their hours until 7 p.m. The Mississippi Civil Rights Museum will also join the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis in ringing the bell along with churches and schools around the nation to recognize King's 39 years of life.
What do Colorado, California, and Tennessee have in common? As of yesterday, they all may be in favor of medical marijuana. And the Tennessee House Committee advanced House Bill 1749 that proposes removing criminal penalties for possessing cannabis for people with certain medical conditions and a doctor's order. While having the cannabis would be legal, patients would have to go out of the state to buy it. The bill's next stop will be the House Health Committee. Tennessee's Senate has yet to take up the legislation.
Have more of your friends been staying for a fifth year of college opposed to graduating in the normal 4-year time frame? Anna Bespalakovich will look at this and why this may be.
As the years go on, college students are finding the need to take a victory lap in order to complete their degree. Ole Miss fifth-year student Maxine Biddy is finishing out her 5th year this spring semester. She had to tack on the extra time because of a major change, but she believes it's generally difficult for the majority of students to finish in 4 years.
Students don't really have a lot of flexibility with their classes, and they kind of, if something happens or, they have to take a semester off, they're like pushed back even farther. So I think there's a lot of obstacles to kind of get that 4-year degree.
While switching majors has accounted for a large amount of this increase in so-called victory laps, we asked an advisor to weigh in on why he thinks 5th years are becoming more common.
Academic advisor R.J. Morgan points out that 124 hours is what it takes to get a degree. If you take 15 hours a semester for 4 years, that only adds up to 120 hours. So even if you're taking an average amount of hours, you're still starting out short of finishing in 4 years.
You factor in a few major changes, you factor in taking a couple of electives that aren't for a degree, and all of a sudden you've added up to an extra semester, and then an extra semester sometimes snowballs into an extra year.
Yet Morgan comments that it's a trait of the millennials to have a tendency to switch majors and change their minds.
You don't feel locked into a bad decision you made when you were 18 years old. There's no real shame in getting to be 20 or 21 and saying, I don't want to do this for the next 40 years, so I'm going to change right now. And so maybe that cost me an extra year in college, but it's better than being locked into a career that maybe you don't feel as fulfilled in.
If you're worried about graduating on time, make sure to contact your academic advisor as soon as possible to make sure you are on track. Anna Bespalakovich, NewsWatch Ole Miss.
When people think of Oxford, they usually think of the country's best tailgates, but now Southern Living is giving the city another title to be proud of. The magazine named Oxford the best food town in the South, competing against cities like Key West, Florida, and Williamsburg, Virginia for the top spot. The article specifically singled out Chef John Currents for the menu items at City Grocery and Big Bad Breakfast, but it did not leave behind newer restaurants like St. Leo and the Oxford Canteen. Allergy season is here and in full swing at Ole Miss. You can't remove the pollen, but you can help prevent getting sick.
Olivia Barrow has more on the story.
Your worst enemy right now could be right outside your door. With the pollen count staying at high levels in the Oxford area, students and faculty are becoming affected.
Tests are getting more stressful and midterms and everything, so it's just the lack of sleep and the pollen and just the up and down of the weather, and it's just kind of messing with everyone's immune system really bad.
In the Mississippi area where the pollen count is at severe high levels, the allergens in the air have an irritant effect on your sinuses. With the beginning of spring upon us and the allergy season at its peak, here is Dr. Yates with some prevention tips to stay healthy this spring.
As far as allergies are concerned, we tell you to try to stay indoors as much as you can. The more you're out into the open allergy exposure, the worse you're going to be.
The Ole Miss Infirmary offers full services to students and staff every day on campus. With the beginning of spring approaching, more and more students are flooding into the health center with the help of the increase of pollen.
And as you know, the pollen right now is just horrible. The pine trees and all the pollen's coming down. And I bet you can write your initials on the hood of your car.
On everyone's doorstep outside, you can see like all the pollen. It's all yellow. It's gross. I hate it. I hate there's pollen. It makes me not want to go outside. I don't want to leave my house.
Be aware with the high volume of trees and plants around campus and the effects it has on yourself and others. Remember to take precautions during these times to stay healthy. This is Olivia Barrow, NewsWatch Ole Miss.
Coming up, find out who took jabs at President Trump and his sons via Twitter.
We'll have more on this story, but first, Brian Barisa has your first look at the current conditions. Let me just
Thanks,
tell
guys.
you
For weather
why
headlines,
that
we've got
shirt
some
looked that
good
way on.
news. The rain is clearing, and we're going to see some beautiful spring temperatures. However, there is a chance of rain this Easter Sunday. And as you can see on the radar, it is pretty clear, but there could be some rain tonight, so stay tuned for my extended forecast on Stormwatch in case you're going to the game.
What to expect when you're expecting a teenager.
Today we're talking about how to wake up your teen, and this works literally every time.
Good kisses. Good kisses. You heard how loud
I know, I
was.
heard. It wasn't you. It was the...
Is that bacon? You don't have to know it all to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Yes, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
The fired Veterans Affairs Secretary David Shulkin told NPR's Morning Edition that the Trump administration wanted to privatize the VA and felt he was standing in the way. Shulkin said he was not against reforming the VA, but he did not think making it private was the answer. On Wednesday, President Trump announced that he will nominate his own doctor, Ronnie L. Jackson, to replace Shulkin. Until the Senate confirms Jackson, Robert Wilkie of the Department of Defense will serve as acting secretary of the VA. And it didn't take long for advertisers to drop Fox News host Laura Ingraham, and it didn't take long after that for Ingraham to apologize. 17-year-old David Hogg tweeted today calling for a boycott of Ingraham's show. This is after she mocked the Parkland shooting survivor for getting rejected by colleges. Hogg tweeted a list of Ingraham's top 12 advertisers asking for people to contact them. Just hours later, Wayfair, TripAdvisor, and pet food brand Nutrish announced that they were pulling their commercials from her program. Since then, Ingraham has tweeted an apology to Hogg. There's another Trump tweet getting attention, but this time it's not from the president. Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump took to Twitter to defend their love for their father, President Donald Trump. Jeb Bush was accused of taking a shot at the president by audience members of his speech at Yale University. Bush said his children actually love him. This led many to believe this comment was a deliberate jab at President Trump. But Bush did not directly refer to Trump and was said to be speaking on how he handled his loss in the 2016 Republican primary.
It's no secret that President Trump hates Amazon. He has repeatedly told the world on Twitter how much he dislikes the company. This morning, the president was back on the Amazon bashing train, tweeting, "I have stated my concerns with Amazon long before the election. Unlike others, they pay little or no taxes to state and local governments, use our postal system as their delivery boy, causing tremendous loss to the U.S., and are putting many thousands of retailers out of business." The tweet came in response to Axios calling President Trump obsessed with Amazon. Russia is expelling 60 U.S. diplomats in retaliation for a similar move by the U.S. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov made the announcement today, saying Russia also ordered the closure of the U.S. consulate in St. Petersburg. This is in response to Washington expelling 60 Russian diplomats earlier this week. It was a part of a global response to the poisoning of a former Russian double agent and his daughter in England. UK authorities have openly blamed Russia for using a military-grade nerve agent for the poisoning on March 4th. For the first time since 2007, leaders from North and South Korea will be meeting. The landmark meeting is set for April 27th and will be held at Freedom House on the southern side of the demilitarized zone. South Korean President Moon Jae-in has long been pushing for diplomatic relations with North Korea. The meeting between Moon and Kim Jong-un comes after the North Korean government unexpectedly resumed communications across the Korean peninsula, even sending athletes to the Olympics in South Korea. The Kim-Moon summit will precede the expected meeting between Kim and President Trump.
The rain has gone away, but is it going to stay away for this holiday weekend?
Brian Barisa will let you know in his extended forecast coming up next on Storm Watch.
Fancy pants peanut butter? A big screen television? You haven't even bought a sofa yet. A motorcycle? When your father finds out, he's gonna flip his shoes with 2 buckles? What do you even need 2 buckles for? Mr. Big Shot, buying whiskey shots for everybody in the bar. From the looks of it, I'd say nobody even remembers. Feed the pig.
Don't wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan today.
Good evening, Oxford. It's currently 65 degrees, partly cloudy, and there's a 0% chance of rain, but we have some kind of strong winds coming from the southwest. Moving on to our satellite image, you can see the rain is moving away and there's nothing else behind us. up next, we have the current temperatures. It is 68 in South Haven, 66 in Holly Springs and Corinth, and Oxford and Tupelo are both at 65 degrees. As for tomorrow's temperatures, South Haven and Holly Springs at 61, Oxford at 63, Corinth at 62, and Tupelo at 65. Looking at tonight's forecast, it'll be 44 degrees, a few showers early in the night, with a 40% chance of rain and a little bit stronger winds at 10 to 15 miles an hour. As for tomorrow, it'll be 63 degrees, partly cloudy, winds like today, 5 to 10 miles an hour, and a 10% chance of rain. Moving on to our 5-day forecast, Saturday has a 0% chance of rain, will be 71 degrees. Sunday will be 63 degrees, Monday 74, Tuesday 74, but with some rain, and Wednesday at 59. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Brian. There's been a change of plans for the football team's schedule. See what it is.
And the Basketball Hall of Fame inductees have been announced. See if some of your former favorite players were named next.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
You think getting dumped by text is harsh? Try getting dumped by a tennis ball. My ex-owner drove me out to the woods, yelled fetch, and by the time I brought the ball back, he was gone. Yeah, I was pissed. But the folks at the shelter helped me let go of my anger. I learned coping skills, like taking it to the hole. Boom! Now I'm ready to fetch again. But how about I throw and you run and get it?
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
How's it going, Rebel fans? I'm Jason Price, and this is Sports Watch. Earlier today, it was announced that the Ole Miss softball team has made a change in plans in regards to the schedule. The softball team was originally supposed to play Central Arkansas away on April 26th, but now the game has been moved to Oxford and will be played on the 10th. Ole Miss will now have a 6-game homestand starting with this Central Arkansas game after an away series with SEC rival LSU. Heading on to the green, the men's golf team has received SEC weekly honors. Golfers Braden Thornberry received SEC Golfer of the Week, and Cecil Wagner received SEC Freshman Golfer of the Week. Both got the honorable mentions after their performances in the Hootie at Bulls Bay in South Carolina. Both of them have received their third weekly awards in their overall careers. Both Thornberry and Wagner and the rest of the Ole Miss golfing team now have 2 tournaments left in the season. Moving to the basketball court, the NBA announced earlier today that former Suns point guard Steve Nash, former New Jersey Net point guard Jason Kidd, and former Detroit Pistons point guard forward Grant Hill have been announced to the Basketball Hall of Fame. Steve Nash averaged 14.5 points per game and 8.5 assists. He played a majority of his career with the Suns and Mavericks. Jason Kidd is the top 5 all-time in steals and assists during his time with the Nets and was recently fired by the Milwaukee Bucks as their head coach. And finally, Grant Hill was a dominant forward who is best known for helping the Detroit Pistons win an NBA championship. And rejoice, MLB fans, that it is opening day and the baseball season is back. It started off in the perfect way with the Miami Marlins giving up a huge blast to Happ and the Chicago Cubs. It was the first pitch of the MLB season, and as expected, Derek Jeter's horrible Marlins got destroyed by the Cubs in outstanding fashion. The feel-good story of the day was first baseman Anthony Rizzo blasting a home run and dedicating it to the Stoneman Douglas victims. But for you fans who are neither Cubs and Marlins fans, have no fear, because the beauty of this day is no matter how good or bad your team looks, it's only the first game of 162. But the Marlins will still be garbage. Sorry, Jeter. That's all for sports. Be sure to follow our Twitter tonight, as we will be live tweeting the baseball game between our number 4 Rebels and the pesky number 5 Razorbacks. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Jason. Coming up, find out which pets got the spotlight in this week's Furry Feature.
Stay tuned. There's more NewsWatch coming up.
Todd's a great guy. I mean, look at him. What a sweetheart. Attaboy. Wait, Todd, what are you doing? How totally selfish and un-Todd-like of you. Come on, Todd. Come on, man.
We are Ole Miss Rebels. As Mississippi's flagship university, we dig deeper, see farther, work harder. We pioneered human organ transplants. We helped prove Einstein's theory of gravitational waves. We are distinguished as a Carnegie R1 top 2.5% research institution. We are Ole Miss, transforming lives and the world.
Don't ignore the subtext. It's on us to intervene in sexual assault. Because we can. Take the pledge at itsonus.org.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Meet Callie. Callie is a 10-month-old, medium-sized terrier mixed dog. She is a high-energy brown pup who loves to play. This lively companion will be the perfect dog to provide company to an active household. Callie is currently at the Oxford Shelter location and is up for either foster or adoption. So if you aren't yet sure about fully committing to a furry companion, consider fostering with the shelter. Fostering shelter animals provides the necessary socialization needed for adoption. Any grown dog or cat is available to foster, as long as they have been fixed beforehand. To either adopt or foster an animal from the Oxford Lafayette Humane Society, visit oxfordpets.com and make sure to check out their Facebook page, Oxford Lafayette Humane Society, and their Instagram page, Oxford Pets. Grayson Ashmore, NewsWatch, Ole Miss.
Well, Grace, Brian, Callie is such a cute dog.
The cutest dog, and she makes me miss my dog back home. I'll get to see her this Easter, though. Brian, how's the weather going to be this weekend?
Like weather's been lately, it could rain, it might not rain. It looks clear, but just might as well look ahead.
All right, thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. That's all we have for tonight. Thank you for tuning in to NewsWatch Ole Miss. I'm Annie Matt.
Be sure to catch us here again on Air at 5 and on our Facebook live stream. You can also find our show on hottytoddy.com. I'm Grace McClanahan. Thank you and good night.